We're primarily going to be using our small round brush for the rest of this painting, with maybe a few little strokes done with our medium flat brush, but this is going to be our main detail for the rest of this piece. The first thing we're going to do is go ahead and throw in the eye. So let's put in that big old beautiful eye. We're going to make it this beautiful teal color. And the first thing you're going to do is just completely fill it in with your base color, which is teal. Just like so. And immediately after filling that in, grab just a little bit of your phthalo blue and maybe a teeny tiny bit of black, and then mix it together because we're going to give our great white shark some eyeliner. Basically just outlining the eye to give it a bit more depth so it's not just sitting flatly on top of our shark. So just carefully going around. And then I like to even add in like a little tick mark coming off to the left and a little bit going to the right. This is also the time that I would go ahead and add in a few details around the face, including the eyebrow, which is just like that. And then of course, remember our nose is up here and their nostrils actually swoop down and connect back down to the mouth. We're also going to want to darken the inside of our mouth just a little bit more so that when we add in those teeth and then just a little bit, they'll really stand out. Very, very good. So now you know that we have this weird little line right there. So we're going to run over it with just a little bit of water on all of these lines, except for around the eye. It's the only one that we don't want to dilute. And we're going to use this to push around some shadow. And make sure you also have a little bit of a shadow down by the cheek, like so. I'm going to grab a little bit of white and teal together just so we can balance out that edge a little bit more. So it's a bit more soft now. Very good. And I even like to add a little bit of a mark below it. But make sure you really fade it out so it's just like a slight shadow. Really, a lot of this piece is just very calmly and very patiently pushing and pulling these colors and feathering them so that they mix just right and have a very seamless, soft transition. So now we're going to go around with our teal and we're going to add in our little line in our belly again. We kind of lost it against the pectoral fin. So we're just going to go in and redefine the belly from the fin. Just like so. And it's actually going to be a highlight, so you're going to be leaving that line primarily. And even adding in just a little hint of a teal line up here as well. Excellent. And so you notice that we have that dark blue against this teal. So really fast, you're just going to want to refeather that on the very, very bottom. Just like so. And then maybe even add a little bit more, just a little slightly darker version on either side of the pectoral fin. Put the color in, grab your brush, and then dry brush it, push it around. And again, you're going to want to redefine those gills with a slight teal and phthalo blue mix. And now we need to add in those little lines. You see how our gills just kind of get cut off right there at the very bottom? So we just need to bring those lines back a little bit. We're going to do that with teal, phthalo blue, teal, right here, grab that, some teal, phthalo blue, a little bit more, and a tad of black. Teeny tiny bit, little tiny dab. Bloop, bloop, bloop. Alrighty, perfect. So it's this kind of gray blue hue. And you're just going to swoop it down, just like so. And you can even go through, and if you want to add a tiny bit more black to that mix that we just made, you can actually go through and add in some more texture into the gills. A lot of times these sharks have nicks and little cuts and indents in their gills, so you can actually go in and add some of those details, add some little scratchy marks to give them some texture, just like so, and it looks really, really great. Just make sure that you don't do it on just one. You want to push it across all of these gills. And maybe even bring it down here into the white portion just a little bit. Just feather it out a tiny bit more down here so it's not too dramatic. And of course I want to just make sure that my darks are staying nice and dark. Be a good time to go into our pectoral fin and add in a few dark striations, and maybe in those areas where we left the original color. Gonna go in with your dark gray that you just made, maybe add just a little bit more teal so it matches. Just like so. And again, all we're doing is that feathering technique. And I actually think that the pectoral fin needs to be shadowed right there just a little bit. So we're using that same mix, just adding a lot of water to it. And now we're going to take pure teal, wash off the brush, take some pure teal, make sure it's pretty liquid, very fluid, so you can outline your pectoral fin that's in the background. And now here's the time too, if you wanted to add in like a little mark there too, please do that. And then immediately as soon as putting in that teal, you're gonna add a little bit of black to your brush, a little bit of that phthalo blue. We're gonna make our navy color. And we're gonna go in and add in our markings for our great white shark. And so they actually have these little black points and little spots in the underside of their pectoral fin. So this is an excellent time to add that in, that last little touch. And I actually find that having teal go all the way around the pectoral fin doesn't necessarily create the effect that you want, kind of makes them a little too pop arty for me. So you're gonna wanna go in and just with your phthalo blue, the color that we use in the background, very lightly, just make a few swipes, almost like a slight wash over a few areas. But you want to still leave a little bit of a highlight so that he stands out, but not too much that he's overwhelming the front portion and the more foreground piece and pieces of his body. And now we're gonna actually mix in white and teal, and we're gonna make a very light highlight. And we're gonna swipe through it one more time with pure white for a final few specks of highlights. And then we'll be all done. So again, mixing teal, got some white. Gonna go over the top, just like so. And so we're highlighting this edge in particular because we really want to make sure it's defined away from the rest of the body. But again, we're not outlining the entire piece because that won't make it look real. So you're just doing a little bit of highlight on the back where it's over the body, and then a little bit at the very, very tip right there. You're also going to go through and add a little bit of this highlight on the very tippy top of our gills, a little bit over the eyebrow, of course over on the very tippy top of the nose, tiny bit on the cheek. And then of course down the back. You can already just start to feather it as soon as you lay it in. I actually put just a little too much of my pigment, but you see, obviously very easy to correct. Just take a finger and swipe over it. So we're building up from our darks all the way up to our brightest brights. So this is not our brightest bright yet. We're gonna do white, so pure white over top of this. But first we need to get in our transition hue, because if you just jump right into pure white, like I said earlier, it'll make your piece look more pop arty and not as realistic. And not just doing a line, but doing a line and then feathering that highlight down, I have found really helps with this effect as well. Gonna want to do a little bit right here, and of course you're gonna want to feather it. So now when it comes to your highlights, you're not necessarily trying to feather these in perfectly. You kind of want them to be a little bit more textured, a little bit more gritty, makes them stand out a bit more and makes it feel like your shark has more texture. Also going to do down the back, just a little bit like that. And then of course on the very tippy top of our dorsal fin. And going down the dorsal fin as well. You can do just a little bit on the very, very tippy top on the back. And then just define your pelvic fin a tiny bit with that teal color as well. Excellent, excellent guys. So see, just like that, we're already developing a lot of texture and a lot of highlights just like that. So we're actually gonna go in and darken up just one little area super fast. I'm gonna darken up the very, very back of our tail just a little bit. We don't wanna totally cover up our highlight. But I found that it was just a little bit too bright right there. It didn't quite make sense for how far down the body that appendage was, and that highlight going along with it just didn't quite make sense. So I'm just gonna kind of slightly go over that highlight with a little bit of that mix of teal and blue and a little bit of black, and I'm kind of washing over it just a little bit. Very good. And now we're gonna swipe through it with a highlight really fast, and then we're gonna do the eye and the teeth and the last part of this lesson. Here's your highlight, just pure white now, guys. And because you already went in and did your dry brushing technique with your teal, you're getting a very nice soft highlight. You don't really have to go in and fight with this white too much. If you would like to go in and feather it a little bit, you are more than welcome. If you wanted to, maybe keep it at like about the mid back and about this area. Like that. So very, very slight. I want to pull it over the body a little bit there, a little bit there, a little bit there. So basically everywhere that you just put a little bit of a teal highlight, you're going to go over and just do a little tick mark of a white highlight. So again, we're just building up contrast and building up our colors a little bit. And then bit by bit, we work our way up to our brightest brights. Excellent, guys. So with that, we're going to take a break and we'll hop back in and finish it off in the last step.